Good morning, everyone. Thanks for showing up. So today we're going to talk about what we're really here for, what's new in AutoCAD 2023. So a little bit about myself, those of you who don't know me or those of you that are new to this webinar or are new to seeing the webinars that I have. My name's Ryan Wunderlich. I have over 37 years of experience with AutoCAD across multiple industry segments. I'm currently one of our senior support specialists here at IMAGINiT. So if you have a software issue and you have support through us, most likely you can get me as one of the people helping you. I do teach AutoCAD as a certified instructor. I've had over 15 years in CAD management, over 8 years in cruise ship building, 5 years in support of civil, survey, landscape architecture before that. I've pretty much done everything except aerospace and automotive. And I have a bachelor's in business management and a master's in organizational management. So very quickly, we're going to go over today. Here's today's agenda. We're going to cover what's new in 2023. The big things are the new Markup Import and Markup Assist. And then we're going to talk about the trace enhancements, the count enhancements, the floating drawing window enhancements. One of the other big new ones is the sheet set manager that's for use with Autodesk docs. That also includes BIM 360. Then we're going to talk about CUTBASE, Polyline Extend, the MLEADER Enhancements, which are actually really cool. The My Insights, there's a macro advisor that's now been initialized inside of AutoCAD, so it can monitor what kind of things you do and can give you some advice on specific macros that might be time savers for you. Then there's been some enhancements to the 2D graphics display, 3D graphics, and some additional enhancements for some of our common commands: insert block, options dialog, isolation mode, PDF import, new drawing, and the customer error reporting. If any of you have installed 2023, you will see that our icon is new in 2023. All of the software has rebranded its icons with the logo and rebranding that Autodesk did. I want to say it was February timeframe. You'll see all new icons, so it's not going to look like what you've had. That's the icon up here in the upper right-hand corner. So first thing we're going to talk about today is the Markup Import and Markup Assist. So this uses machine learning to identify markups and provide a way to view and insert drawing revisions with less manual effort. Markups can be imported as PDF, PNG, or JPEG and are overlaid on top of your drawing in the trace workspace. And then markups in the imported file are automatically identified as M-line text, M-leaders, and rev clouds where appropriate. And the Markup Assist allows you to insert those identified markups into the drawing as geometry. And you will find that under your Collaborate ribbon tab, under the Traces, you'll see the Traces palette and the Markup Import palette. So the Markup Import, we use that first to place marked up versions of your drawing on top of the original file, make it easier to view and incorporate your changes. The imported file is automatically placed and aligned on top of the drawing file in the new trace. If the imported file is not aligned correctly or perfectly, you can go through and manually align, move, scale, rotate, or do whatever you need to get it to fit correctly. And when viewing the imported markups, you can change the background transparency to adjust the visibility of the imported markup. And the Markup Assist feature is the second part of that. So that automatically identifies markups such as text, leaders, and revision clouds. Click on identified markup, then insert it as an M-text, M-leader, or rev cloud object. You can edit the text before inserting it or choosing to copy the text to the clipboard. I will have two examples of this when I do the examples. One of them is a markup on a PDF. So I used Bluebeam, made some markups on a PDF, resaved the PDF. The other one is that I printed off a copy of it. I wrote some stuff by hand in it and rescanned it to a PDF. I can tell you right now, what I have found so far is that the things that are entirely raster, in other words, I print the PDF, I draw on it, I mark it up, and then I rescan it, it's not picking up any of my revisions or any of my information other than just bringing it as trace. It is not actually identifying M-text, M-leaders, or rev clouds at this point. Again, this is machine learning, so over time it may start learning those things, especially with your handwriting. So we have two new commands, Markup Assist and Markup Import. And then we have we have a couple of new system variables. We have Markup Assist mode, controls whether or not identified markups are highlighted. Markup paper display indicates if a digital markup is currently active, and the markup paper transparency controls the level of transparency when the digital markup is active. And now we'll just do a quick demonstration on this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come into here, right? Doesn't look a whole lot different than what we're used to. The tabs up here have changed slightly. They're more angular now instead of rounded. And again, we're going to come over here and we're going to go to our collaborate. We're going to go markup import. And I'm going to do the scan markup. Okay, this is my markup from here. It's going to ask me which page. I'm going to pick this page right here, page 2. I'm going to import. You'll see this occur. You do not need to have internet connection to make this happen. This happens in product. And what we should see here is that it's going to come in here and it is going to do its best to align and scale that PDF and try and match up where it can. All right, and we get them up here, and you're going to see that I have my note here to change the sync. And it's asking me to accept the placement. I'm okay with this because I just want to see what this is. And it detected 0 markup objects. Joel, the machine learning for the Markup Assist, Autodesk has not told us if it is per machine or if it's per Autodesk account or if it's just generic. They have not given us any information on that other than they say machine learning. So at this point, I'm going to assume it is tied in some way back to your Autodesk account. So it will be unique to you. The only reason why I know that is that when I install new versions of software on machines that have never had it before, it automatically goes and looks for an older path that I had for a block library in the block library palette and keeps wanting and defaults somewhere else because it can't find it on machines that have never had it. And yes, these features will be included in MEP 2023. Any of the features that I cover today will be for any of the AutoCAD based products, which would be your MEP, your AutoCAD architecture, AutoCAD Map 3D, mechanical, electrical, plant, Civil 3D, because Civil 3D is AutoCAD based. When you're done, you just click the check mark and it'll close the trace and their trace will disappear. We're going to go back to the import markup, and this one we're going to do the Adobe one. And again, it's going to come in here, and this is where the fun is you're going to see that I actually have objects in here that it picked up. So if I accept this, now I've got some information here that I can come in here, and it detected 4 markup objects. So if I come in here, and we're going to go to the trace, and now I click on here, and it will allow me to edit the trace, and you'll see that I've got this information here. And then we go ahead and launch Markup Assist mode. Oh, I had this just the other day. Come on. Let's open up our trace. That's right. Let's put this one back in here. This one. And Markup Assist. This is the only command that is not in the tool palette or up in the ribbon. You actually have to launch this one manually. Switch to traceback. Okay, and now Markup Assist. I select a markup object, so anything that's got these blue, and do I want to insert this as an MLEADER or just MText or copy it to the clipboard? So I'm going to insert it as an MLEADER, and it's going to say insertion point for the text. Put the insertion point here, and I can stick my arrowhead here. And I can repeat this process one more time on the revision cloud here, and I'm going to insert as a rev cloud. And now when I turn off my traces and I close out of that, here's my rev cloud, here's my piece of text that says, here's my note, and the date and time that I did this. Here's the person who did it, and here's the note that comes with it. Bob, what's new in Civil 3D? That is a separate webcast. This is only about AutoCAD today. Okay, so that's our Markup Assist. It's actually pretty easy. So now we're going to talk about our trace enhancements. So building on the initial release of the trace feature, you can now create traces in desktop and contribute the traces to contribute to traces created by others. Yes, Rebecca, it will work from Adobe or Bluebeam. It'll actually work from a number of them. Cute PDF works, Foxit PDF, any PDF editor that has markup capabilities, it should bring that in. Most of these features are available in LT, Michael, yes. So building on the initial release of the trace feature, you can now create traces in the desktop and contribute to the traces created by others. So we can create traces, contribute to an existing. You can remove your contribution, but you cannot remove contributions made by others, and you can view contributions. We have trace edit and trace view. And we'll cover those really quickly. So we come back to here. Here is our trace. So again, we come up to our Collaborate tab, we come to our Traces palette, and you're gonna see I have some traces here. You're gonna see that the initial trace was created when I hover over this by Productivity Now, and then it was last modified by me. So there are two contributors to this trace. So when we click on this trace and make it active, you can see here are my contributors. I can go ahead and toggle on or off any contributions that are not mine, so I can just see mine, which I need to fix that corner over there. And if I come over here, I can see that the Productivity Now does not like this arrangement of these two bedrooms, closet and bathroom, and want that changed. Now the nice thing is if I use this trace here, I can save this file, I can send it to somebody else using 2023. They can open up the file on their machine, or we can put it in the cloud, like BIM 360, Autodesk Cloud, anything like that. Somebody can open this and they can add to this trace as additional comments rather than modifying the actual drawing geometry, and then we can use this as a collaborative forum to go back and forth. That's the whole point of this. Benjamin, I will not be covering anything specific about mechanical. Again, this will be for AutoCAD and AutoCAD LT only, and I'm only covering the core features of what's changed there. So that's the trace. And again, we've covered trace in the past, or I've done trace in the past. It's actually a lot of fun. You can come in here and I can continue to add to the trace. So as long as I'm in the trace mode like this, I can just use my regular commands. Like I can use my annotate, and I can do a multi-leader, and I can say, don't show me this again, right? And I'm gonna go, because I think I scaled this at 1/8 inch equals a foot. And I can say, something in here, and I can say, change this, etc., so on and so forth. And these are traces, so I'm not actually changing anything that's in here. That's more like a commenting layer is the best way I can describe this, as it's a non-printing commenting layer where you can incorporate these things. You can choose not to incorporate anything from the traces. Have they include AutoCAD's interaction with BIM 360? They have not done a whole lot specific to BIM 360, except in regards to sheet sets, and we're going to cover that in a bit. And again, when I click out of that, that's what we get. So the default layer being used for trace, there is no default layer. The trace exists outside of layers. Think of trace as onion skin. For those of us that have been around for a number of years, think of it as an onion skin that you would put on top of a paper drawing. What is the latest AutoCAD version you can save a file? This is still the 2018 DWG format. It will still open. I can change any of these files and I can still open them in 2018 without having any problems. Is there a way to tell if the drawing contains a trace without having to open the trace window? Generally speaking, if I turn on, or if I open up a brand new drawing, or if I open up a drawing that has a trace in it, it will usually prompt me that says there's a trace in this drawing. It will ask me if I want to open that. And can it be turned off and on periodically? Yes. You can turn the trace on and turn it back off when you need. So for the count enhancements, you can now count instances of an object or blocks within a specified area. You can specify a rectangular or a polygonal selection area and the entire model space, or select a valid object as a count area. A valid boundary object must be a closed polyline that consists of line segments that does not intersect with itself. The count area here, defined in the previous count section, can also be used in the current count. So count area defines the area, count area close, selection count, and count is the only thing that changed. You bet, Jim. I'm a big fan of memory lane, onion skin. Those of us old school guys that used to do board stuff remember it. Now I'll do just a quick demonstration on the count. So going back to our trace drawing here, and again, we'll go ahead and close this, and we will go back to our view and our count, right? So I have no selection in here. You're gonna see I have a bathtub, I have 29 outlets, 11 switches. If instead I just wanna see what's in this room, I can just window that. And now you'll see I have 2 door 20s, 4 outlets, and 1 switch. And I can choose to change that. I can click out of that. And as soon as I click out of that, it goes back and reverts to the whole drawing. And again, this is just like we covered in 2021 or 2022, the count palette is good. It only counts the existing space that you're in. So this is counting my model space. It is not counting anything I have in model or in electrical. Are traces always stored in the cloud, or can they be stored locally? The traces are stored in the drawing, Robert. So if I send you a copy of this drawing that I'm working on and you open it in 23, you will have the ability to make traces and contribute and add to the traces that are already there, or add new traces. You can send me the drawing back and I will see that. Are any of the blocks in the sample drawing dynamic blocks? No, none of these are dynamic blocks. And if you have a dynamic block in here, since now that you've asked, right, let's go Control 3. And let's bring in dynamic block. So you're going to see it's a door imperial, and it's going to show you under the door imperial what dynamic block view state it's in. Okay. So if I change this to an open 60, now that becomes the open 60 here. Again, this is the same thing we covered last year with it. Correct. Shared views are stored in the cloud. Traces are not. They are stored in the drawing. Can you have multiple windows for count? Can you have multiple legends based on areas for the same block? You can create tables for individual counts that you have here. And then once I insert it, it's only that one, right? Insert. There's my table for that area. And then when I close out of that, you'll see it's no longer holding that, because now I have, well, maybe I did grab more switches, but once you do the counts like this and I pick a different area, right? So that becomes that. Make sure that that did not update. See, it automatically sees we already have the switches and outlets. So that does not work. You would need to explode the table if you need that based on what you need, or you draw a closed boundary that does not intersect itself, does not cross over itself with a polyline, and you can use that. Right. So that's our count enhancements. All right, and now we're going to talk about our floating drawing window enhancements. So they've done some enhancements to the floating window so you can drag tabs off and put them on other windows. An anchored window command window now stays with the active drawing window. A floating command window maintains its position wherever it is. If drawing windows overlap, the active drawing window always displays on top. You can pin a drawing window to a location. A pinned drawing window remains on top of any overlapping drawing windows. And now you can right mouse click the title bar of a floating drawing window or for additional options, which is move to the file tab or unpin. Count is not similar. Count is kind of, it is not similar to data extraction. I would look at count as being the next iteration of the old bcount command, where it does a block count and then just returns that to the command line. Now you have it in a palette. That would be the best way to describe that. So those are the new floating drawing window enhancements. I'll be honest with you, unless you have monitors that are all the same scaling and screen, usually we're not doing this. But it's there. Now, we're going to talk about the big elephant in the room. This is what everyone's excited about, the sheet set manager. Rick, that is a good question. I am not sure if it's going to count all of the blocks in a array. If it were a classic array, yes. If it's a dynamic array, no. It will only count the one instance. Actually, there's nothing in regards with dynamic array that counts more than just the initial instance because it's dynamic. So the sheet set manager with Autodesk Docs. So you can now manage sheet sets from within Autodesk Docs and BIM 360 using the new sheet set manager for web. Now, it is a lighter version of the legacy sheet set manager and displays and manages named collections of drawing sheets stored in Autodesk Docs. Opening a DST from Autodesk Docs displays the sheet set manager for web by default. So what this provides you is the following capabilities: is to create and remove sheets and subsets, define sheet set properties, publish sheet sets to PDF, and transmit sheet sets. That's it. That is all you get in the light version or the sheet set manager for web version. And we have one new system variable, which is SSM sheet set manager detect mode. SSM detect mode determines which sheet set manager is displayed when opening cloud-based DSTs. Now, for those of you that have been down this path and have stored sheet sets up in the cloud for, and doesn't really matter, Autodesk Docs, BIM 360, SharePoint, Autodesk OneDrive, you guys have found that sometimes that causes problems. And as I call it, it usually causes a lot of problems. What we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and open, I'm going to open up SSM, and I will go ahead and open, cancel, yes. Open a sheet set. Now this is my local copy sheet set. All right, this one is located on my machine. It's on my C drive, right? And we have a number of things here. Like I can come in here and I have a lot of things here, and I have properties. And you'll see I have a whole list of properties here that I can play with, things like that. And I can edit custom properties. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this sheet set, and now I'm going to open. Now I'm going to go to my Autodesk Docs. Here's my project files. Here's my Docs sheet set that's in the cloud. When I open this, it's going to check out the latest version. And when it finishes opening, it should close the sheet set manager and bring up the light version. Okay. This is what you get. I can come in here and I can publish to PDF, and I can do an e-transmit. I can open this file. I can publish to PDF. I can e-transmit. Once it finishes syncing, I can open. I should be able to remove the sheet once it finishes transmitting. Okay, it's unlocked, so it's not in use. So if I remember right, I need to edit, and now it's locked by me. Now I can rename and renumber, remove sheets, things like that. I can come in here, I can create new subsets, new sheets, and these are the properties that are here. You will notice that I don't have a lot of ability to make custom properties and things like that. When I am done, I need to finish editing in order to incorporate any of my changes, and then it will now show that this sheet set is open by me, but it's not in use, so it's not locked for editing, so people can go now and make their own changes. So just be aware, there are some nuances to this. In other words, you can open it, you can publish, you can do whatever you want, but if you need to make changes, you have to take ownership by editing. That will open it and lock it for editing. You can add additional sheets, like I can come in here and I can add new sheets. If I had other drawings, things like that, then you will see that these sheets are actually located in floor plan under project files. So all of these are actually located in my Autodesk Docs cloud, right? So if I go, hang on, I see the question, just bear with me, right? So in here, project files, I actually created the sheet set by going new, going through the wizard and saving it up to the cloud, and adding the sheets that I had already saved up to the cloud. And that's where all of this came in. And then as soon as I closed that and reopened it, it immediately defaulted to my sheet set manager for web. Okay, let's see. Do you need to copy it back locally? Where do you create it initially? You can create this either locally and push it up to the cloud, or you can create it directly in the cloud. Are there editable fields, or can you have custom fields for subsets yet? No, you cannot, at least not in this interface. And if you can't do that today, you still can't. They haven't made any changes to the current sheet set manager. They've created a light version for those of us who keep sheet sets in the web or in BIM 360 or Docs. And can you create new sheet and sheet set properties in the BIM 360 sheet set manager? As you see here, I do not have a lot of properties here I can change. That's what I have. Does sheet set manager need to be open in order to browse for the one in the cloud? SSM, yes, or you can just go open and then you have to open up the sheet set. Can you show how to add sheets in the light version? Same, right? As long as it's open by me, I can come in here and I can say new sheet. It's gonna pop this open here. It's gonna say, here's my template, here's the sheet number, sheet title here. I can do that. I can also come in here and add a new subset. And if I remember right, I can we want to dock that above the status bar. I know we can add additional sheets. Now I've got to remember how we do that. And let's see, this feature comes with AutoCAD 2023. Automatically, it does not need a plugin. Is there an import? Let's see. Sheets, would you be able to make edits in an offline DST, put it on BIM 360 to get around some of the lack of editing? Yes, you can do that. The one that I have on my desktop is a copy of the one off of the docs. Copied it local, made my changes, and then I can put it back up. Can you copy it back locally to edit the other fields and re-upload? Yes. Just understand that this is a light viewer version. Other than that, it performs exactly the same. Again, you cannot publish DWIFs here. You can only publish to PDF. and it's going to just, you get no prompts. It just starts publishing, and what it will actually do when it completes, right, publish in progress. When it finishes, you'll see your PDF will actually show up in Docs. When I finish editing, close that, and that's where it saves it. Come on. I know this is where it goes. There's my PDF I just made. Well, that's not what I want. That's what I want. So that's the sheet set for Docs. Again, it's just a light version. Where can you control the settings for creating the PDF? It's all of those settings are coming directly from how you pre-configured it when you set it up the first time. You can't change any of those settings once it's done. Yes, when you publish, it will put it in the same location as the DST because that's how this one's configured. All right, gonna move on. So the next piece that we're gonna cover is CUTBASE, right? How many of us have used copy with the base point for, Control Shift C, copy with the base point? Well, now we have CUTBASE, which allows us to cut an object from the drawing now with the base point. And we use Control Shift X, and we can now do that, or you can find it when you expand out the cut panel. Down at the bottom is cut with the base point. Right, you specify the base point, then select the objects you want to cut and press enter, or you can pre-select objects, hit cut with a base point, and then pick the base point and it will cut those. And then you can use paste clip, paste as a block, paste to original coordinates, all of that when pasting into other drawings. All right, so quick demo here. All right, since this, I'll go ahead and close that. All right, I'll grab these two objects here. And again, I will come back to my home tab here, and I will cut with a base point, and I'm gonna just pick some random base point over here. And now when I paste, that was where I picked it. And I can come into a different drawing and paste. And I'm in paper space, so that's gonna be way off. Paste, just like that. Right, easy peasy. The next one is Polyline Extend. This was probably between the light version of the sheet set manager that doesn't break DSTs in the cloud and Polyline Extend. This was probably my most favorite thing I got excited about. And there's a new grip option called Extend Vertex, which adds a new vertex to your polyline extending from the selected end grip. You no longer have to reverse polyline direction. Those of us that do a lot of polylines and we draw it the wrong way, we have to go back in and reverse it if we want to extend or add a vertex. Otherwise, that adds a vertex between the start point vertex and the next one. Okay, so when you click on a polyline, you will see add vertex. You will also see extend vertex. It depends. The add vertex option could add a vertex between the end and the previous vertex, and it depended on direction here. With the extend vertex, the vertex is always extended from the selected end grip, no matter which direction the polyline was drawn. I got really excited about this as a civil guy and as a guy who draws a lot of polylines, right? We go from here to here to here to here, and I go, oops, I need to come back here. Now I can come back here, and if I add a vertex, it puts it in between them. Now I can come in here and extend vertex, and now I can add a new vertex there, knowing that this was initially my start point. This is now vertex 1, and it renumbers the vertices. This got me excited, okay? What can I say? I know what I like. All right, so that's that one. The next one's the MLEADER Enhancement. This one also kind of got me excited. It's a little clunky, right now. I hope that gets better as Autodesk gets feedback. I hope this gets better. It is a little clunky, but how many of you have drawings that have M text and leaders that are not associated, or you might have some old stuff where you have basically a broken leader, something like that, and you've got a piece of text, things like that. You can actually now convert MLI or multi-line text or M text directly to a multi-leader. This one got me kind of excited as well. So you click the Home tab, you go to Annotation Panel Multi-Leader. At the command prompt, you enter C to select content. Then you enter M to select existing multi-line object. You specify a location for the arrowhead of the multi-leader object, and it will turn that into a multi-leader. And note, if your multi-leader style has a default text value, the M text option is not available. So if you use multi-leaders with a default text value, this won't work. So you have to have a lot of style, or you have to have a specific style for that. So we'll come in here. This is one where I've set up with just some M text, right? Just plain old M text right here. So again, we come in here, we come to annotate, we launch our multi-leader. This is what's clunky about it, is that you have to use your command line, or if you're not using the command line like this, if you have dynamic input, you're gonna see drop downs, right? We're gonna go select M text, select the M text object, specify the leader location. This is now a multi-leader, just that quick, right? Plain text. Let's go turn that into a multi-leader. All right, we're gonna hit the down arrow. We're gonna select M text here. Boom. Again, this is now a multi-leader. So if I grab any of this and move it, it's now fully. Yeah, I hear you, Pauline. Did it add the leader to all instances of the annotative scaled text? Yeah, it converted this directly to a multi-leader, and I'm using an annotative multi-leader as my style. So if I go to, right, well, that was kind of an extreme example. So let's go to something a little less extreme, right? 6 inch equals a foot. There's still a multi-leader there. That's where my text was anchored. We'll come back to something 1/4 inch equals a foot. Boom. Yes, it did add that leader because it's no longer an M text. It is truly a full multi-leader now. It is a full multi-leader. So that's the new multi-leader enhancements. Now we're going to talk about the one that I'm really not quite sure of. It has potential. How about let's talk about that. So there's this new thing called My Insights, and it's a macro advisor. And the macro insights are suggested command macros intended to help you be more productive. A command macro contains a sequence of commands and system variables to help automate tasks you perform frequently while working in AutoCAD. Now, Pauline, you have to select them one at a time. That's why it's still a little clunky, because you do have to pick the start point for the leader for each one. AutoCAD 2023 now generates macro insights based on your unique command usage. So you use the command macros palette to view, try, and save suggested command macros, and command macros can be added to the Save tab of the command macros palette for use, and then even added to the ribbon. So the Macro Insights tab here, and we'll talk about where we find that. Actually, that was on the previous slide. We find that under Automation tab, and there's Command Macros. Opens up another palette. You can expand each macro insight, so you can see zoom, save, closed, rotate, move, copy, previous, quick clipboard copy, paste and rotate objects from clipboard, things like that. So command macros is command, opens the command macros palette, command macro close, closes it. Command macro state indicates whether or not command macros palette is open or closed. Insight support, macro insight support controls whether or not macro insights can be received based on command sequences you execute. And macro notify controls the notification for macro insights. So there's not really a good demonstration for this, but what I will do is go over this. So I had to come over here and I had to show tab, yep, automation. And here's my command macro. So when I open this, you'll see that my insights give me copy, rotate previous, and multiple fillet. And you'll see there are several reasons why insights might not be available to you. Below are some sample. Why am I not getting insights? And if you click on this, it'll actually come in and tell you why you might. Lori, there's not a good way for you to see it. That's why I try to answer and let people know as I see their questions what it is and answer them with their names. So you can certainly feel free to put your question in. No question is a stupid question, okay? None of them. So this takes a process you may do and creates a macro to perform all those steps without you doing it. Aaron, you are absolutely right. This could be a very dangerous scenario. And you'll see I don't have any saved macros. But basically what it's doing, it's putting together little things like multiple fillets. And you can see that it's going to go fillet /r/fillet/ whatever. And all it's going to do is it's just going to use your basic AutoCAD language and AutoCAD commands to build macros for things that you do. This is no different than things you would have done in the past for toolbars to perform specific app or things you do in the ribbon today. If you do any customization of the ribbon, all of those things are tied back to this. I have not spent enough time in here to start getting insights. And like I said, if there are things that I find that are repetitive, usually I've already created a programming language called Lisp. I've already created something to do what I want based on my set of parameters, because maybe I don't want it to run all the time. Maybe I want it to do something specific. And it is Ted Black, yes. It is very similar to scripts in the fact that wherever you see one of these semicolons, like here's the Morco row, semicolon would be the same thing as a line break, and then _P, line break, /_C, line break, etc. So this is kind of the same way as creating a macro or a script. It's just doing it as a single command line command, where it's stacking those things together. So that's how you find that. And I can save it or I can try it. If I click try, it's going to say specify the fillet radius, and I'll say we'll go 6 inches and select the first object, right? It's the second object, first object, second object, first object, second object, etc. That's basically what it's doing. Yeah. This is exactly the same thing, Robert, as what you put in there. You usually make tool palette command that does that whole thing. And yes, Jim, for us onion skinners, we already have Lisp that does all of this. For those of you that are not familiar with programming language, scripting, or how to correctly set up tool palettes, this is going to be your shortcut. If you're new to AutoCAD, if you're not familiar with the language and the methodology and the syntax, or you really have some ideas on what you want to do, you go through these repetitive tasks. The insights here are going to pick up what you're doing, and they're going to give you some suggestions to try and do some of that. So I'm going to close that for right now. We're going to come back in here. And now we're going to talk about, they made some graphics enhancements now. Some 2D graphics display. They improved zoom and pan performance for drawings with many true type texts. Long polylines or solid hatches in 2D wireframe visual style. Those of you that have used true type text for years understand that the more true type text that you have visible in your drawing, the clunkier your drawing gets, because true type text is not shown as a vector font, it's done as a graphic fill. I actually have an article, I have one of our blog posts in the support group that's either posted or will be posting soon on why you have such terrible performance when you're using complex true type fonts. GPU memory usage has been optimized when opening up multiple drawings in DirectX 12 mode. This is the critical one, as they have removed support for DirectX 9. So if you have an older video card that only supports DirectX 9, you will not be able to move up to 2023. It will not work. Right? 3D graphics, this is just some enhancements that came out last year with the cross-platform 3D graphics system. They are still working on it. It is still clunky. The new graphics system is on. Limitations: this modern graphics system does not currently support point clouds, materials, geolocation, maps, large coordinates, and customizations of visual styles. Those of us that use Civil 3D means that this 3D graphics, number one, we're never in 3D graphics. Number two, it's not going to be something we need. So we need to actually go in and say fast shaded mode and turn that off so that we're using the old school 3D graphics as opposed to the new one. That's an important piece to know, and it is, again, it's limited to model space only. Paper space of viewport continues to use the existing graphic system. They have not introduced anything with point clouds or LiDAR tracing in the base AutoCAD. So a couple of additional enhancements: the insert blocks. So the block redefine dialog box provides an option to rename block when the specified block already exists in the drawing. This is for insert block. This is also if you're making a block with the same name of something that already exists, it will prompt you if you want to rename it rather than just fail. The new options dialog box, this was probably the one that got me most excited about the small tweaks, is that if you make a change in your options and you click cancel or click the X in the upper right hand corner, you finally get the prompt box that says you made changes. Are you sure you want to exit without changing? Right? Those of us that monkey with our options, right? Let's go options. And I'm going to turn that off, and I'm just going to hit cancel. We now get this dialog box, right? Do we want to save the changes or discard them? Right, if you hit cancel prior to this version, it would just cancel out and you would be just wherever you were. Isolation mode, those of you that use isolation mode, if you select objects, when you exit isolation mode, your selected objects will still stay selected now. That's a big one. And PDF import. So AutoCAD is now using the Adobe API instead of PDFtron API. This affects both the PDF import and PDF attach commands. Really, it's more on the back-end side, especially if you do any programming or use the API stuff. This is more for that. Otherwise, your PDF import and attach are going to work exactly the same as they have. They are slightly better in the newer version. New drawing, when hovering over the new drop down on the Start tab, it will display a tooltip with the name of the starting template file that will be used. What they're talking about here is for those of you that still have the Start tab, like this is how my AutoCAD opens to here. If I hover over new, it's going to tell me that's going to start with the acad.dwt. One of the things that I found very difficult with the 2023 version, and I'm still getting used to it, is that if you have multiple templates and you have started a drawing with a different template than your standard, it remembers that as your last starting point unless you have clearly specified what your Q new starts with. And when you just click new, that's the one it defaults to. And what I'm referring to is that if you do not have, let's go back to here, in your options, under files, under template settings, if you do not have this set, so in other words, if this is set to none, the last DWT you started with becomes your default going forward until you change which DWT you start with. That's why that feature was added right here so you could tell where you're starting. And the last piece, the customer error reporting. Your email address is now automatically filled in when an error report is generated. That means when you get the crash error report, you don't have to retype your email address in once you do it the first time. It will remember that email address every time you send in a crash error report. If you're not sending in your crash error reports, please start sending them in. Autodesk does actually pay attention to that. Sometimes the crash error reports, they're not going to do anything about because it's an internal problem on your machine. If it is a specific problem that they see occurring regularly and it's coming from a specific set of commands, it does help Autodesk, especially if you open a case with them. if you keep a reference of which CERs you've submitted, and there will be a CER number when you crash that's submitted when you submit. And all of those things become very important when we're trying to track down problems. All right, now I'm through blathering at you guys and showing you all the new stuff and some of the new enhancements. So now we're into Q&A. All of you guys have done a very good job of answering or sending me questions. I think the only thing I haven't done, or the only thing I haven't specifically covered, is how to add new sheets to a sheet set, and for the cloud-based sheet set. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to, let's make this floor plan 2 and -3. And let's go, whoops, let's save this one up to the cloud. All right, let's put this one in docs, here, 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 save. All right, now I gotta wait for it, and then we go SSM. We're gonna go ahead and open up our, yeah, see right there, there's our doc sheet set. Now it's gotta reload some data. We're gonna edit, right? And you'll see that I can't just drag sheets in here. So I actually have to go through the new sheet process, right? Where I have to go sheet number, sheet title, file name. And this is where I need to know what the file name is. And if I'm looking at my docs interface, as soon as I lock this sheet set, it goes to the locked status in my Explorer window. Sheet number. Let's see, this will be electrical leader, sheet title. This is new sheet. And new sheet in progress, and then when it's done, it should add a new sheet in here. New sheet failed to create. Project Manager for AutoCAD Architecture going to have a light version as well? No, not as far as I know. This is just sheet sets for the cloud, because the Project Manager that you're referring to is only an MEP and architecture. So unless the MEP or architecture tool sets have decided to include that, you're not going to get that yet. That may be something to there is a, what is it? There's an Autodesk product feedback site. For those of you that have never been there, hang on just a second. I will get you that product feedback site. If you want a feature or you want something for them to look at, I always remember to tell people, and it's going to be in the full chat for everyone, go there, right? www.autodesk.com, company, contact us, product feedback, put in your feedback. If you don't put in your feedback, they don't know what kinds of things you want to work on. The Augie top 10 list is nice, but if you're not a member of Augie and you don't like how their voting is, this is where you can specifically request specific things. All of these features will be in Civil 3D, yes, because Civil 3D is built on top of Map 3D, and Map 3D is actually built on top of AutoCAD. So is there an option to remove overlapping extension lines when creating continuous dimensions? Dimension 1, extension line 2 is overlap. Then it must be turned off inside Properties Manager. Jasmine, that's more of a support and or configuration issue with continuous dimensions. That's not necessarily covered here. That's something we can definitely talk about online later or take that offline. But I do know what you're referring to. Usually when I'm doing continuous dimensioning, I actually will end up turning off extension line 2 or extension line 1. I will turn one of them off for the dimension style, and that's how I find to get around it. CUTBASE. Those are not anonymously named blocks, are they? Okay, well, let me finish editing and let's talk about that. That was an excellent question. So when I come in here and do a copy or cut, right? I can just do a plain copy clip. Here's what I want you guys to know, is that when I do a copy using Control-C or Control-X for cut, what ends up happening is that it will actually create this. It's creating a temporary block in your temp folder. Okay? And then if I just paste this, like with just regular old paste, and I go to purge, that block will not show up here. Okay? Because that's cut and paste. Because I'm only taking the elements out of that geometry. Now, if I do a Control-Shift-V for paste block, now when I click on this block, now you're going to see that that block property, which is a $C23014BA8, and that should match up with that block, the temporary block name that was created here. And that gets inserted as if you were to have right blocked out the information using WB, called it this name, stuck it in your temp folder, and then just pasted and then inserted the block using the block insert command from here. Mike, I hope that answered your question in a long roundabout way. Where can I learn more how to create templates for MEP AutoCAD projects? Any videos? Pauline, there's a lot of good resources out there for MEP AutoCAD projects. The big thing I can tell you is that AutoCAD MEP has some built-ins that you need to be aware of first. All MEP and architecture projects have an underlying code base associated to them. In other words, there's a template that has your default layers, your default layer colors, things like that, that are going to be some sort of AIA standard, National CAD standard. I think there's an ISO standard. So there's some of that, and I don't know of any good videos offhand, but I do know that that's some of the information that you need to know. To add full paths to do this depends on how your sheet set was initially set up and whether or not all of your sheets, if the drawings themselves are stored in BIM 360 and the DST is stored in BIM 360. If they're not in the same folder, that might be part of it. If they are in the same folder, then I would definitely reach out to Autodesk and let them know that the light is not capable of going past a certain point. There is a theoretical limit to how many sheets you can have in a sheet set. Just know that 40 should be fine. If I remember it, the limit's 255. Once you hit 256, it breaks. Going way back, oh, now we've got some interesting questions. Let's go all the way back here. Going way back, was there a version of AutoCAD for the Apple II or the Commodore 64? No, there was a version of AutoCAD for the Mac, the original Mac, and I actually have a screenshot of that somewhere. And it was AutoCAD and AutoCAD Architecture. I believe version 9 was the first one to come out on Mac, and version 12 was the last version for Mac until we came back around. You can always use the rename command if you want to keep the pasted block from the clipboard. Yes. So when blocks are counted, the named ones will also be on the list with the bad name. Correct. Yes. So if we go to our count palette, right? Let's go view. Let's go take a look at our count palette. There's our anonymously named block. All right. Does the MLEADER enhancement use the current MLEADER style or retain the style? It uses the current MLEADER style as the default when you change. Anyways, so we are right up on the 10 o'clock. Lori?
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and shut off the recording.